Your trainer for today is Susan Fowler. Susan is our senior trainer, and she will take care of that one on reporting. Go ahead, Susan.
Good morning. Ours are technically afternoon for some people too. All
Yes.
right. I'm going to share my screen in just a second. As Dino said, any questions that you have, there's a Q&A based in the menu there. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so today's webinar is on reporting. So we're going to talk about general reports and we're going to talk about queries. So one thing that everybody should know by this time, if you've been using the system for a bit, is that in your task list, you have the ability to search and find for very specific information. This is different than a report. And we're starting here with query because it's important to know. Some people think that they need an actual full report, and in some cases you do. But sometimes you're looking for something very specific, and the system allows you to search and find within your task list to find it. And it's easy to do. You can also print a hard copy. You can print a list if you need to for something very specific. You can also, in a full-fledged report, you can filter and find that information also. So remember, anything that you do in your filter puts a number in your sticky filter, so you'll have to hit reset to go back to your original defaults, okay? So remember, you can open your date range up. You can search within whatever your default window is, or you can open your date range up and you can go back a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 months, it doesn't really matter. You can search by keyword, you can search by a room, you can search by an area, a type, you can search by many different mechanisms in this part of the system. This also transfers over to filtering in your report. Every single report in maintenance care has the ability to filter, right? So it's the same sort of concept, looking and searching and finding, and then filtering down if necessary. So anytime that you open up a search, you can search in keywords. So for example, if I went back and I went and searched for keyword spider, it would bring up all the tasks with spider. And then I can easily, if I want to, I can print a hard copy just by doing that right click. And everybody should be familiar with the little, it's called a right click or a quick link. And it basically takes you to different things that you can do here. So you can print an individual, you can highlight the ones that you want. And again, this is different than doing a standard report, okay? And it might be what you need, one or two things or printing a list off. So when you do search and find, remember that sticky filter, you'll have to hit reset to go back to your original filter, whatever that might be, okay? So a general query is different than a standardized report within the maintenance care system, okay? Reporting is part of the navigation over to the left of your screen, right? So again, there's all sorts of different navigation points within maintenance care. Reporting is over there and you'll click on reports. We're going to go to the center subsection called reports. We're going to come back to these two in a second, but we're going to go to reports. So we're going to talk about running different types of reports and all of the different reports that are available within maintenance care, and specifically the one that is standardly run. But also too, we're going to talk about scheduling a report. And scheduling a report is important to know because it saves you the time where you have to go in and run a generalized report. You can always call customer support too, obviously, if you need any help on that. So we're going to go to the reports folder. And in the reports folder, like I said, there's all sorts of different variations to running reports. Okay, depending on how you're using the system, you would have two types of reports. You would have a task report and you would have an asset report. An asset report would be if you're running or you're creating transactional records within maintenance care. Okay, so that means you're adding an asset to a task. That allows you to run a transactional report specific to either a classification of assets or a specific asset, all right? There is a main dashboard, and a main dashboard has about 10 graphs and pie charts, and those are viewable. You can adjust them to a certain degree. And then there's some general graphs in here under this folder. The scheduler and the vendor folder is basically just a listing of your vendors in the system and a listing of your scheduled tasks. It's not a report. Remember, a scheduled task sits in the scheduler and becomes a task on the schedule that you set daily, weekly, monthly, whatever it might be. So, two reports, task reports and asset reports. We're going to go into task reports. And in task reports, you'll see that there's all sort of subsections in there also, debt set, export, KPI, again, more stats reports. But fundamentally, the report that you're going to need 9 times out of 10 is a general report. Okay. So in here under the general report folder, there's 5 reports. If you need numbers-based reporting, right? So you're looking for standard numbers, maybe open versus closed, that sort of thing, or general stats of how many work orders came in for one specific task type or one specific building area, then you would generate your stats reports. Okay, so again, those are numbers based and they're functional and they're great if you're looking for providing yourself with generalized number based reporting. But we're going to go to the big report here, the task.cls report. You probably noticed as I'm moving my mouse over this report, you'll see that everyone here in this listing has a little clock assigned to it. So you'll see here, that little clock means that this report can be scheduled, and we're going to backtrack to that. And we're going to look at how to set up a scheduled report, but we're going to bring up the task list as it stands right now. We're going to bring up that task report. I'm just going to stop my share for a second because I've got to go in and make sure that I've got my share correct. All right. So when that report comes up, and hopefully everybody can see it. Dino, are you able to see the report on your window? Okay, great. So this is the big report, right? This is the report fundamentally that the majority of our customers that call into support for help on reporting is looking to generate. And then it's a functional report, which means it gives you information. And the information usually is already in the system, the type of work order, where it is, what was done, who it was assigned to, everything like that. All of our reporting in the system, when you go to any of the generalized reports, will have parameters, filters, and some sort of layout. Now, this is the most comprehensive one, parameters, filters, and layout. But there are, in each report, there are parameters, filters, and layout. They just won't be as extensive as this. So you're always going to start to the left, and you're going to start with your parameters. Now, depending on how your license is set up, if you have one license or multiple licenses, you have the ability to filter by your license. So you'll see this little gray box with vertical dots. If you click on it, it gives you your values. And the values basically in this context would be all of your locations. If you just have one license, then you wouldn't need to filter by any specific location unless you want your report to encompass all of your facility locations. Okay, so this is your facility license locations. This is not building areas. So keep that in mind as we make our way through to filters. Okay, so if you want to, you can just click and move over your facilities over to selected values. Again, that's if you are multi-license. If you just have one license, then you wouldn't have to even do any part of this. So then we're going to go down to start date and end date. Okay, so when you're creating a report, you need to know what is the time frame that you're looking for. Are you looking for a month or a quarter or a year? You need to tell the system what time frame you're looking for. So little calendar built in there, you're going to click on it, and you're just going to go in and you're going to run your report from your date. I like to go 1-to-1. The clock is, you can adjust the clock. The clock is basically a 12 or 24-hour clock. So if I want to capture a full day, like on the 31st of a month, I'll go to the 1st of the next month. But I can also manually adjust it, right? So again, if I want this to be a 24-hour clock and have it end at 11:59, I can do that. It's a little bit more complicated then. So 1-to-1 is the good ratio for running a report. So if I want to run my report from January 1st, and I can run it through to the end of this year, even though technically the end of this year hasn't happened, I could end it, I could go to January 1st, 2026 if I wanted to, and I'll do that right now. Sorry, I got to go up, but my numbers are down. Okay, so now I put my start and end date in. And then I need to determine what type of report am I running. So our system allows you, which is, I really like this part of reporting, it allows you to split your reports. And what I mean by that is I can do a task report, right? So think of a task report as something is broken, it needs to be fixed. Usually comes in via the request page or it gets entered directly into the system. And it's not a scheduled report. Remember, scheduled reports or scheduled here, PM report is what we would call it, is your scheduled maintenance, right? So remember, scheduled maintenance is your compliance and regulatory, anything that's on a schedule. So our system allows you to split that report, which is really important to remember because if you have sort of any governing body that wants a report, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a PM report, right? So again, most of our customers and even recommendations on when we're training on this is that split your reports, work orders and PMs, and or you can run it in all one big report. And if it doesn't really matter to you, then that's fine. Okay. So again, we can split our report if we want to. And then if we want, we can determine if we only want to see everything that's been closed for that year, or we want to see everything that's still open for that year. All we have to do again is move what we want over to our selected values. Okay, so again, if I just want to see closed work orders, I would move them over to my selected values. And I can also split it to preventative maintenance only. Okay. Now, the one thing to remember once you've set your parameters is to click that submit button. You'll know very quickly that you forgot this part and you'll have to start over. So we're going to submit. So there's my first parameter set. Now I have to determine if I need filters. And you might. It might be that, again, you want a report for a specific area. And depending on how your license is set out, one license with areas, whether they're campus of buildings or they're floors within a building, as an example, then you can go in and you can split your report into different areas. Okay, so again, you can filter down. Sometimes it's a requirement to filter down, sometimes it's not. You also have the ability to filter by a specific room, right? Or task type. And so remember at the beginning when I was talking about in the actual task list, that filter, this is very similar to what you would do if you're doing a general query. You have to have a bit of knowledge on what information you're looking for and whether indeed you need to actually filter. In some cases, you don't need to, but you can. So again, you can go through and you can filter by an area or a task type. If you're using vendors and you want to filter just a general vendor report, which means vendors worked on these certain tasks, then you can do that. There's all sorts of ways that you can filter in the system, and then you would submit. So again, that would give a subtext to the original parameters in there. One thing that I think is probably the best feature, and I use reports quite often, is again that keyword search. Remember when we were in the filter in the task list and we were searching for something particular? Well, maybe I have determined that I need a report specifically on that keyword for a year. And it would bring up every single task that was done or not done if it's still open with that keyword search. Again, that would happen here. Okay, so again, if it's a work order report or a full-fledged report with everything, that keyword search would bring up that word, right? Because sometimes maybe the task type is different for some reason, maybe the way your system is set up. So keyword search would definitely bring that up. So I think that's a really neat thing to have in a report. And again, it goes back to that general query. Okay, so once you set any filters, then you hit submit again. So now you've got you got your parameters and you've submitted, you've hit your filters and submitted, and now you're going to go to your layout. So you'll always notice in maintenance care when it comes to little menus here, there's always defaults, right? So again, you'll see here, I can change my layout. So this is important to remember because of the way that your facility license is set up. If you're a campus of buildings, then you probably want to break out your report by your building, right? So if you have one building, two buildings, three buildings, then that would separate your report into all of the tasks for that building. In some cases, you don't really want to break it out. You want to break it out specific to a different type, right? So again, I want to see all my fire safety, all my electrical, all my plumbing, and I don't care what building it's in. I want to group it all by that type, which I can do. So again, you have different things that you can do if you want to see who it's assigned to. If you want to group it by a specific room in your layout, you can absolutely do that. So there's lots of options when it comes to that. Show group, that's just a default to basically, it breaks it down here into subsections again. It's not something I really pay much attention to, but you can play with it a little bit. What you need to pay attention to is the level right here. So default is condensed, which means you see basically one line of the comments, one line of the notes, and it gives you general information. And in some cases, that is all you need. But remember, a task might have more information in it, right? And more information might be line by line of everything that was done or status updates over the course of a few days or a few weeks, which means that you can then change that to a detailed report. And a detailed report will give all of your information. Okay, so again, you determine that. If you are exporting this report out for an audit, then you will need to export out a detailed report. Okay, so again, you can have it so you show company or don't show company. You can play with the layout. It's really up to you to decide how you want your layout to be. Now, one thing to note, if you're just at this time going to view your report, you need to make sure in the upper right corner of your screen there, you'll see where my mouse is going, task report paginated. So the default for the reports is a paginated report, which means that if I wanted to look at this report, it's going to break my page breaks. The system is basically thinking that you want to export this to print, right? So it will put those page breaks in. If you just want to view your report, then you're going to change it to continuous. And that means you can scroll up and down and you can view your report. Make sure you've got all your information out. And then if you are going to export it and it is going to be printed, then you would go back to paginated when you do your export. Okay. Is it necessary? No. But just remember, if you do eventually print it, it might not put the page break where you think you want it to be. It might separate that information. Okay. So keep that in mind when you are going to export your report or even print it from here, because there's options, as you can see. You can export your report as a spreadsheet, you can export your report as a PDF, and you can print your report directly from here. Okay, so the system is set up to run a report in a really easy fashion. And even if you're running a detailed task report like this, or you're going to any one of the other reports, the setup is going to be very similar. Not as robust as this, because this is the big report, right? This is the big generated report that gives you all of the information, but it will have parameters, it will have filters, it will have some sort of layout in there. And in some cases, you might keep your eye up here because it gives you some alternate layouts also that you can go in and filter from up there, but it will always give you the ability to export everything out from there. Okay. So that's how you run a general report. And again, if we went into any one of the other reports, you would see same thing, parameters, filters, layouts. Okay. And again, here, right? So everything is set up to be very familiar for everybody. And that's important in any system that you're in. If you're familiar with how the layout is, and you know that when you go into any one of the reports, you can filter that way and set your parameters, then it makes it easier to navigate. All right, so since we're here already, we're going to look at scheduled reports. Now you can go and run or create a scheduled report from here also, but we're going to go here since we're already here. So remember how I said at the very beginning that as you mouse out, you can see that little clock, right? So that's basically a built-in wizard to running a scheduled report. Okay. So when you click on that little clock, this is what's going to happen. This window is going to pop up and you'll see that there's different buttons to go to. And there's different reports that you can generate. So again, you can tell the system what report you want. And most of the time, depending, remember when we were in that other section in that general report, how do we want this report to look? So it's either going to be by area or it's going to be by type. Those are the two boxes that you're probably going to generally gravitate towards. There's other reports in here that are general stats reports. Remember, we talked about those, but you want to have probably task stats by type. That's probably the one, or by location. Okay, again, if it's a facility, you can break it down. Now, the one thing to remember, and this is continuous through our wizard, is what are you naming the report? Because eventually this report will be scheduled and it will email it to you, right? So again, you want to be able to find it, you want to be able to name it. So if you're going to name it just like you can find anything else, because eventually you might save it too, right? So again, you might export it, you might email it to yourself, and you might save it in your folder. So you want to make sure that you're running the report and you're naming the report accordingly. If this was a work order report, then I might have it split into just work orders. Or if it's a PM report, I might have it named as a PM report. I'm going to give you one little trick. You're going to do a little copy on this. Depending on the type of computer you have, Command C or Control C, copy it. Because as we move through creating our scheduled report, there is a field where you can just populate that in. You don't have to rename it every single time or type it in. It's a little trick. We're not going to do anything special here, so we're not going to split this up, but I probably will go and do task stats by location. Maybe that's what I'll do. We'll see. Or I'll leave it just as that. Okay, so we're going to go in. And again, same as when we were in that original general report, if I have multi-licenses, I can determine that this is going to be for a certain location. If it's going to be for a certain location, I would put that into my title. Okay, if it's just one facility license, or if you're splitting your report up, if your license is set out by buildings within the license, then I would put in the building, and again, I would filter just like I would in a general report. There's no difference there specifically. So again, I have that ability to do that. Now, out of everything in creating a scheduled task, this is the most important because there's a built-in template in the back end, and you need to know how to locate that. Now, our online wiki guide provides instructional information. There's also customer support. Remember that too, because most of the calls that we do get urgently in support is somebody needing to run a report, and you can always call and somebody will help you run a report. And I do recommend calling because you'll probably get a live person 99.9% of the time. But there's also the online chat and the email, and someone will walk you through it. Okay, so little calendar you're going to click on. Now, in here are the templates. Okay. So just like when we were, so I'll just bring my window down a little bit. When we were in running the general report, running a templated report gives us lots of options, right? Most of the time, if I'm setting up a scheduled report, it's either going to be month to month, or it's going to be year to year or quarter to quarter, right? Probably more month to month than quarter to quarter. So if I think about it, my report is always going to be for the previous month, right? So if I'm starting here, basically near the end, coming to the end of November, and I want it to start on the first day of this month or the first day of this quarter, and I can put in my quarter, right, depending on what it is. Okay, so again, I would put in, let's see if it's going to be November. and it's going to be November 2025. So I'll go up. Where did it go? So I would start here, right? The beginning of this month, okay? So my filter is set for November, and my end date is going to be the end of November. So it doesn't matter that the dates I'm putting it in. I'm basically saying that I want it to run now. It's going to run for the previous month. So on December 1st, which I'm going to run this through, it will send me a report for November. And in January 1st, it will send me a report for December. Okay, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to put the last day of this month. Okay. Now it's going to run on that, and it's going to continuously run. So it's going to always run for the previous month, starting in November, because that's the month that we're in. If I wanted to, I can go back to January 1st and it will run an open task report if I want it to be, right? So again, I can run an open task report starting from whenever I started using the system. It doesn't really matter, but what I want is a monthly report. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. So again, I can go in and I can split my report just like I can in that general report that we were looking at. I want to see everything in this report. I don't want to really split it. I can again filter. I can filter again. I can do it by room. If I want a report for a certain room, I can absolutely put it in. Or if I want a vendor report, again, I can do that. All of this is the same as those parameters and filters and layout. There's nothing different. All you're doing is setting it up on a schedule. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to next, and we are going to set up who's going to be receiving this report. So again, I'm going to paste in my weekly task report there again, and then I'm going to set up who's going to get it. Okay, so again, I could separate each person by a comma. If I have a 2, I have CCs, I have BCCs. So again, I can add some notes in here if I want to. Here's the quarterly report for you to save, whatever. And then I can determine what and how I want this report to go out. So remember when we were talking about exporting, I can export it as a PDF. I can export it as an Excel. So again, if I want it to be a PDF, I would put that report in. If I don't want it to be a PDF and I want it to run as a spreadsheet, again, I'm going to put in my pass, or I can do both. I can have it come out to me as both. Usually it's one, and usually it's PDF most of the time, probably 90% of the time. If you are, and this is different from the export in the actual general report, if you are going to export as a Excel spreadsheet, make sure that you export under column format. This is the one difference from the general report to this report. You want to separate your information into individual columns, okay? And the reason you want to do that is you might want to clean it up and take out columns that are not necessary. You maybe want to add a column and do a formula. So again, making sure that you separate. The default is report format, which you can take the time to clean it up, but you want to make sure that you do column format. Okay, so there's other options here. These are the two primary ones. Okay, so again, depending on what you want to do. Okay, and then you're going to click OK, and then you're going to go to next. And now you're going to tell the system when you want to run this report. So depending on what time zone you're in, okay, there's lots of time zones in there. You can pick whatever one you want. And then you're going to tell the system that you want to run this task periodically. So periodically means you're setting it up for your schedule. So remember, we had set that report up to be monthly. I could set up that report to be weekly if I wanted it to be. So I'm going to actually set it up to be monthly. And I want it to come the first day of every month. And I want it to come at 7 a.m. Okay, so now I've got my schedule set up, and I'm going to go to next. Now, I can get a notification when this task fails, and that's the one that I recommend. Obviously, if it's successful, I have received the report. But for some reason, if it fails because maybe the connection, your internet was down or something like that, and it didn't make the connection, you'll get an email and you can go and generate that report. So now if I finish this report, what I can do now is I can go to my scheduled reports, and there is my scheduled report, right? So I can run a report here if I want to. I can do a new schedule. Remember how I said I can do a new schedule from scheduled reports? Same wizard built in. It's really dependent on where you are. If I need to make adjustments to that report, I can make adjustments to any part of the report. So if I wanted to go in and edit and copy it, I can copy it and I can create another report. And all I have to do then is go in and rename it and maybe change a building area, right? Or maybe change a certain report to who is going to get that report. I can also delete this report, and I can also go in and I can adjust the report just like I did before. So if I want to change who's getting a actual copy of it, I can do it here. I can change when it's going to be. I can go in and change my general information if I want to. Okay. So again, if you're going to copy your report, then you would go in. So basically, the only reason you would copy the report, let's say you set it up for if you're building, if your facility license is set up like a campus, right? So building 1, building 2, building 3. And so now you set up this and your report is for building 1. It's the same report. All you're going to do is go in and edit it to building number 2. And then you could just copy for 4 buildings if that's what you have. And you would just go in and edit the building area, right? So again, then you can also name it differently if you want to. Okay. So that's how easy it is to run reports. There is nothing complicated about it. I will always say, and any time that we do any of these webinars, our support is there. There's an online chat, there's an email, and there's a phone. So I usually recommend phone, especially if you're urgently needing a report. That's usually who we get called is reports. For reports is usually a phone call. Okay. And then the online wiki guide, I don't know if everybody's accessed the online wiki guide. It's a phenomenal resource built into our system. Keyword search here, probably my favorite. Getting started, mobile app, general FAQs are here, advanced task management. Again, there's navigation, and then obviously reports, right? So again, it will walk you through everything that you need to know in the system. Okay. So, do we want to sort of talk about some of the new reporting
Yes.
that's coming?
The new features that are coming.
New
Go
features are
ahead.
coming. All right. So, some of you may have noticed that in the type of facility access that you have, and I think, it's only going to be to master users, right?
Right now, it's only master users that have access to the first one.
Okay,
Yes.
so if you are a master user in the system and you've gone into reports recently, you will see a difference, and you can see on my screen here that we have 3 subsections. We went into this subsection, which is going to stay. Right currently now it's J reports 13. It's going to be J reports 24. That interface will stay. It's getting an update, right? But it's basically going to be new functional reporting. And that's what that is. We talked about that at the beginning. It's functional reporting, right? There's no bells and whistles to it. It's functional reporting for general information, okay? But there's also a new reporting functionality. Oh, it's kicked me out. Hold on a second. I got to go
No
log
problem.
back in. Bear
No
with me,
problem.
everybody. I'm sorry about that.
I think they know what the feeling is about. It
Yes, how
probably
many
happens to
times?
them many times a
Uh,
day.
yes. And we are not immune to it, just to let you know.
Right.
All right, let's get back in. Okay. All right. So we're going to go back to reports, and we're going to go to analytics. So this is really interesting because this is different reporting. There's no functionality in here right now, but eventually this is what your reporting will be able to go to for analytics, right? So if you remember, oh, probably maybe earlier this year, if we did another reporting one, we talked a little bit about the skin of the reporting interface changing, and this is what it is. So these are very specific analytic reports. So again, it makes it easier for customers that maybe don't want to go into the other type of reporting or find it, a little difficult to navigate. These are generalized reports that have come through from many years of customers being walked through how to run reports. So again, this is what's going to be coming. And then should we talk about Tableau?
Yeah, I can probably
Yeah.
just touch a couple words about it. So we've partnered with a third-party software that maybe some of you know called Tableau that provides dashboards, visual dashboards to allow you to manage your tasks within the facilities and to make sure that it's essentially a score. It gives you a score on how your team is managing the tasks or the assets or the PMs within your facility. This is a third-party software, so there is a cost associated to it, but I think you have a 1 month free trial period that you can try it out. It is for all clients. It was created at first for multi-license clients because it allows the master user to see all the facilities and their score, their specific score on how they do with the closing down task and managing their duration and et cetera, et cetera. So, if you want to have a trial like this, I would recommend you send our support team an email and we will provide you with the access. It would take about a couple of weeks to set you up as a master user only. So bear with me. Only master users can have that functionality, and it's usually one per company. But it is a new feature. We're going to develop a lot of reports with those. They're visually interesting, and they, like I said, it's mostly just to see how the facility or facilities are doing within maintenance care. All right. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Susan.
Thanks. So it's different from functional reporting, right?
Yeah.
So it's very visual. A lot of people like visual, which is great. I'm a visual person too, but functional reporting, which is the data, right, that you need, is usually the go-to for a lot of things like audits and things like that. So functional reporting will never go away.
No.
Um, but it just gives you another level, both in the analytics and the Tableau, to be able to report in a different manner. All right, so Dino, do we have any questions?
Oh, yes, we do. We do. Let's go. Well, Eric, by the way, yes, Volt is, and it's not 4.0, but it's Volt. It's coming up, we're thinking by the end of the year. So bear with us there. Jenny, can we print a report on non-activated tasks?
On a scheduled report.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't say much
so
more than that.
I'm not sure what you mean by non-activated. So let me sort of
Probably
take
not
a step
new
back.
tasks. Yeah.
So if it's closed tasks,
Yeah.
which if that's what you mean, tasks that have been closed, yes, you just need to go in to any report and you go in and you would basically filter, right, in the system. I'm going to go into the general report again. Okay. Can everybody see the general report here?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So if I'm understanding, and I'll circle back to that again. So again, if we need to know whether or not it's a closed report specifically, then yes, you can run a report on everything that's been closed. Okay. If you're talking about a scheduled task that has not yet triggered to become a work order, then the answer to your question is you can run a scheduled list of all of your scheduled maintenance. Probably the most common one is the summary, but there's a detailed report too, and you can group it. But yes, you can run a report. It will tell you, depending on the type of report that you're looking for, when that is supposed to trigger and when it is supposed to become a work order. So I'm not sure if I've answered your question. Yes, you can run a closed task report, but you can also run a scheduled report. But again, remember, this is not a actual task report. It's all of your preventative maintenance in the system. It's just a listing of everything that you have, whether it's paused or active, and when it's scheduled to trigger. I hope that
Thank you.
answers your question.
Thank you. Anonymous attendees is asking if the platform has bilingual capabilities. We operate in US and Latin America, and it does. We do have, you can translate the platform. You just need to go into your settings, but I would recommend that you go and send an email or a call or chat with our support team. They will help you do that.
Mhm.
Kent, I'm looking for a report on dead set responses related to an asset inspection. How would I go about that?
Okay, so you're getting more into detailed reporting. I would suggest that you call customer support, call them, right? And someone will be able to walk you through the type of report. They might even schedule a call with you to actually show you how to do it, depending on what you're looking for in the system. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
that would be my recommendation. We don't have enough time to walk through that today, and that's a very specialized question. So definitely reach out to customer support. Okay.
Thank you. Jason, will the task dashboard stay logged in without it timing out? Hmm.
The dashboard
Yeah, I'm not
itself.
sure.
So are we talking on the dashboard takes a while to load, but I can load it. So will it time out? No, I don't think it times out because it's a separate report. It would stay open. Now, eventually, maybe the information might appear to be empty, but I've had reports open in the background for many, like longer than a couple of hours that I can still use. Um, Now, to answer your question specifically, that's because I'm in maintenance care working. I do not know if that report function changes if I log out of maintenance care. Okay, so
Yeah.
I don't know the answer specifically to that. I've never tested it, but I know if I'm in maintenance care and I'm in maintenance care basically all day long with multiple windows, I have reports opening that I'm changing and testing and things like that, and that report will stay open for a while. So I don't know if it ceases to function if I am out of maintenance care, but I'm going to assume that it will cease to
Yeah.
function, right? I mean, it might keep that window open, but that window will not be adaptable. Okay. And I'm
Yeah.
loading up the dashboard just for so people can see. The dashboard does take a while to load. There's 10, I think there's 10 altogether graphs and pie charts in the system. And if you need help navigating through the dashboard, if you go into our online wiki, it will walk you through. There are ways to customize the dashboard. But again, if you need additional help, please call customer support.
All right.
So this window is an independent window in J reports, right? So as long as I'm in maintenance care, I can adapt and make changes to it, to any of the reports. But like I said, I'm not sure what happens when I exit out of maintenance care
Thank you.
functionality. Okay. So
All
I'm
right.
sorry, it's not
Thanks.
100% accurate answer for you, but it's the best I can do at this time.
And Gabriel, your question, I think, relates more to the general portion of the software and not the subject matter we're talking. So, I would recommend if you're talking about reporting, it's fine, but I think you're talking about the website itself. So, and I'm guessing it's the filter bar, judging by the question. So I would actually I would call support and or ask for a chat. Click on the chat function to talk to somebody on our team to help you with that. Saloni, how does maintenance care categorize data behind the scenes and can function and can custom fields be included in report generation for LTC specific compliance needs? Example, MOH, LTC, fire safety, IPAC, etc. So again, how does maintenance care categorize data behind the scenes and can custom fields be included in report generation for LTC
It's a good
specific
question. It's a
compliance
good
needs?
question. So when it comes to how the system is set up, there's predetermined fields that you either create. So I'm going to give you some generalized answers. You have, as we know, the system is set up, you have task types, right? So plumbing, electrical, and then you have building areas, first floor, second floor, or building one or building two. Within the system, there is classification. And classification allows you to categorize different types of work orders under a classification. A lot of our customers classify in two different components. Sometimes they classify for the reactive or the demand work orders, like time sensitive or emergency types of classification. So they can pull that report. How many high priority work orders did we have in the month, right? And that's because they have to report at a higher level for maybe overtime or costs incurred during that. Same with emergencies. But then the other side of classification is fundamentally for generalized reporting for audit. So in some cases, depending on the type of licensed facility you are, you could have a classification for any of your scheduled maintenance under HACCP or under your scheduled maintenance on audit, like state survey or provincial audit, right? And that allows you to filter that information into a generalized report, usually for scheduled maintenance, but not always, because a demand style work order can be classified if it would fall under audit. And sometimes it does, like I said, it would be dependent on that. So then, yes, you can pull that information in. Now, as far as custom fields, in a standard work order report, the fields are the fields, right? And then about assets, there are fields that have custom fields where you can put information in and you can filter into that type of report. But generally, in a standard report for the system, not the audit, not the asset report, but a general report, stats reports, anything like a field to pull information has to be populated. So if it's a room field or it's a task type or it's the comments or the notes, that information can be pulled. But as a standard work order, there's no custom fields in there. They all are populated or not populated to be able to pull that information from. If you want more help, and again, we're sort of circling everybody back to customer support, then you can talk in a little bit more detail to a person that we can sort of vet out what your needs might be and see whether or not there's something that, you need to pull from the system, and maybe we will be able to help you. Okay.
Thank you. All right. And Saloni has got another question. Can vendor-related data, service frequency, invoice totals, repeated issues, be extracted into a cost analysis report?
That's a really good question. So at this time in this system, vendor information is very generalized. Vendor information can be based on a task and it can be on transactional report. There are ways to pull information from the system. In some cases, there might be a deeper filter that you might be able to do. I don't know that our reporting system at this time, because remember, there are changes coming, will allow for that functionality. But I'm going to circle again back to customer support and maybe reach
Yes,
out and we can have more of a conversation about that.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
we do have a report writer. And
Mhm.
so if ever you need custom-made reports now, we can have them done. There is a cost associated, of course, to that, but at least you would have the report. And so reach out to us.
Yeah.
We will probably be helpful.
In theory, if something is populated in the system, you should be able to pull a report, even if
Yes.
it might be a custom report, as Dino said. It's not going to be in the generalized reporting, even with a deeper filter. So it would have to be customized. But again, we do have a report writer. So, if you're looking for something like that, definitely reach out and talk to us about it and see how we can help you.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan. I do not have any more questions apparently. So I
Okay.
thank you all for your
Right.
time. I hope you enjoyed yourself and see you next month with another webinar. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you
Have a
all.
great rest
Bye-bye.
of the
You
day.
too.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.